Let's dive right into this explainer and talk about the absolute ultimate survivalist of the Ice Age, the woolly mammoth. Picture this, a magnificent, shaggy beast dominating the harsh, frozen landscapes of the Northern Hemisphere. They literally owned that world for hundreds of thousands of years. And then, poof, they vanished. A mere 4,000 years ago? I mean, in geological terms, that's basically yesterday. But here's the crazy part. We're not just talking about ancient history today. We're actually looking at the very near future. A 2025 Newsweek piece highlighted that scientists at a company called Colossal Biosciences are deep into de-extinction research. They seriously expect the first woolly mammoth calves to be born within the next 3 years. No way, right? Well, the whole reason this is even on the table is because we've uncovered perfectly preserved frozen remains across Siberia. Take Lyuba, found in 2007. She was a 1-month-old calf, 90% intact. Or Yuka in 2010, found with liquid blood, intact DNA, and even brain tissue. Because we are so incredibly close to bringing them back, it's absolutely crucial we understand exactly what kind of creature we're reintroducing to the world. Which brings us to our first real question. What exactly is a woolly mammoth? Well, the secret is kind of hidden right there in the name. You see, the word mammoth didn't originally mean gigantic at all. It actually stems from the indigenous Mansi people of northern Siberia. They used the term man-ungt, which translates to earthhorn. It's a great story, actually. They kept finding these massive curved tusks buried deep in the dirt and figured they must belong to some sort of giant, burrowing creature that lived entirely underground. In the scientific community, though, we call it Mammuthus primigenius. These guys evolved roughly 400,000 to 600,000 years ago, and they roamed all across Europe, Asia, and North America during the Ice Age. Now, I want to bust a major modern myth right now. The whole idea that the word mammoth just automatically means absolutely enormous actually kicked off in 1802. Someone gifted U.S. President Thomas Jefferson a giant 4-foot cheese wheel, and people mockingly dubbed it the mammoth cheese. The name just stuck. But contrary to popular belief, the woolly mammoth really wasn't much bigger than your average modern African bush elephant. We're talking about 2.8 to 3.15 meters tall, weighing in at around 4 to 6 tons. That is definitely a lot smaller than their ancestor, the colossal steppe mammoth, which towered up to 4.5 meters and weighed a staggering 14 tons. But what the woolly mammoths lacked in record-breaking height, they made up for with their incredible spiraled tusks that could grow up to 3 to 5 meters long. Okay, so how did they survive the extreme cold? Let's look at their adaptations to the Ice Age. Think about this. Temperatures back then routinely plummeted to -40 or even -50 degrees Celsius. That is brutally cold. To survive that, the mammoth developed an amazing physical toolkit. First off, they had the ultimate winter coat. Fur up to 90 centimeters long, backed by a super thick layer of subcutaneous fat, around 8 to 10 centimeters deep. Plus, they had special sebaceous glands to secrete oils and waterproof that fur. And to prevent frostbite, they adapted to have exceptionally small ears and really short tails, which cut down on heat loss from their extremities. Oh, and here's a super fascinating detail. They had this unique brown fat hump right on the back of their necks. It basically acted like a built-in radiator, serving as a vital fat reservoir and a dedicated heat source during those relentless winters. Moving on to diet and behavior, let's talk about how these survivors lived day to day. Woolly mammoths were what we call Ice Age grazers, living out on the dry mammoth steppe. Their diet was mostly grasses and small shrubs. Obviously, that stuff is tough to chew, so they were equipped with 6 sets of heavy-duty molars that would just gradually replace each other over their lifetime. And those huge tusks we mentioned earlier, they were perfect snow plows for digging down into the ice to find food. Socially, they were remarkably similar to modern elephants. They lived in these tight-knit matriarchal herds led by older, experienced females to protect against predators. They also shared an incredibly long 22-month pregnancy. We even know, from analyzing the chemical rings inside their tusks, that adult males experienced intense periods of aggressive must, exactly like elephant bulls do today.
Next up, we have to look at the complex relationship between humans and mammoths.
It's easy to picture early humans just hunting them for meat, or painting those beautiful, iconic silhouettes on cave walls 30,000 years ago, but the relationship went way deeper than that. To our ancestors, mammoths were literally walking hardware stores. Over 70 circular huts have been discovered on the East European plain, and they are entirely constructed from mammoth parts. Early humans used those incredibly heavy mammoth bones as the foundation for these 8 to 24 square meter homes, and then they framed the actual entrances with the massive spiraled tusks. They relied on this animal for absolutely everything. In fact, that reliance is exactly why some theories suggest our intense hunting might have been a major factor in driving them toward extinction.
And that leads us nicely to their final chapter, the path towards extinction.
So the mainland populations pretty much vanished around 10,000 years ago as the globe warmed and the Ice Age came to a close. But against all odds, a tiny relict population actually managed to survive. They held out in isolated pockets like Wrangel Island off the coast of Siberia until just 4,000 years ago. Let that sink in for a second. There were still actual, living, breathing woolly mammoths wandering around in the snow while the Great Pyramids of Giza were being built in Egypt, and while ancient Mesopotamia was a thriving civilization. It's just mind-blowing. Which leaves us with one massive, lingering question. These creatures were perfectly engineered for the Ice Age. They completely dominated the frozen north for over 400,000 years. So why exactly did they disappear? Was it just the rapidly changing climate? Or did our ancestors finally push them over the edge? Their story is far from over, especially with scientists literally on the verge of bringing them back. Keep those questions rolling around in your head, and thank you so much for joining me in this explainer.